All right, class, let's dive in. Today, we're going to tackle a really big idea, something that might just change how you see education itself. It's called critical pedagogy, and it's all about questioning, well, pretty much everything we take for granted about the classroom.
So let me start with a question for you, and I want you to really think about your own experience in school. Was it mostly about just memorizing things, dates, formulas, facts, and then just spitting them back out on a test? Or was there something more going on? This very question is really the key to unlocking what we're talking about today. The incredible Brazilian educator Paulo Freire thought a lot about this. He really disliked what he called the banking model of education. Picture it, the teacher has all the knowledge and their job is to just deposit it into the students' heads, as if you're just empty piggy banks waiting to be filled. But Freire said no, that's not real learning. He pushed for what he called the dialogic model, and that's a total game changer. It's about a conversation, a two-way street where teachers and students are actually learning together. Students aren't just passive receivers, they're active thinkers. Okay, so if that banking model is the problem, what's the solution? This is where we get to the heart of it. Critical pedagogy. It's all about finding a way to move far beyond that old passive way of thinking about learning. So what is it exactly? Well, think of critical pedagogy as an approach that turns education into a tool, a powerful tool. It's a way of learning that helps you ask why things are the way they are. It encourages you to challenge injustice and ultimately to actually transform the world around you. The big idea here is that you can't separate what happens inside the classroom from the society that exists right outside its walls. We can actually break this big idea down into 5 key principles. First, the belief that education should be for social change. Second, to get there, we have to develop what's called critical awareness. Basically, the skill of seeing the hidden power dynamics at play all around us. Third, it says dialogue is way more important than just top-down authority. And fourth, this is a huge one for us, it's about uncovering the power hidden inside language itself. And finally, it does all of this by putting students' own lives and experiences right at the center of learning. Now, I really want to zoom in on that 4th principle because it is so important. This idea that the language we use every single day, the words, the phrases, the accents, is absolutely packed with meaning about power. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Language is never, ever neutral. It's not just a simple tool for getting ideas from my brain to yours. Every word we use is like a little map. It carries traces of history, of power struggles, of who gets to be in charge, and whose voice is heard. Let's just take the English language as an example. We have this idea of a standard English, right? The kind you hear on the news, and it's often seen as more educated or professional. Meanwhile, other ways of speaking, local varieties, might get labeled as incorrect or less than. But here's the thing, that's not a linguistic fact. It's a social judgment, and it's deeply tied to history, especially the legacy of colonialism, where the language of the powerful became the standard everyone else was measured against. Now, this can all feel a bit abstract, so let's bring it down to earth with a very specific real-world case study. For people in a country like Pakistan, these questions about language and power are not just theory. They are a part of everyday life. Think about it. For a student in Pakistan, being fluent in English is often directly connected to your social class, your job prospects, your opportunities in life. This creates a really tough situation, a tension between your local languages and this global one. This is why a critical approach is so vital. It gives students the tools to understand where this pressure comes from, to engage with their own history, and, this is so important, to see their own unique variety, Pakistani English, not as a broken version of something else, but as a valid, rich, and powerful language in its own right. So let's pull all these threads together. After all of this, what's the big idea? What's the main takeaway from thinking about education in this way? Honestly, the goal is pretty profound. It's about changing education from something that's done to you into a practice of liberation. It's about giving learners the true freedom to think for themselves, to question the status quo, and to really see their own potential to make a change. And if you're someone who studies language, the takeaway is crystal clear. This whole approach helps us see beyond just grammar rules and vocabulary lists. It helps us learn to read between the lines, to decode the hidden social meanings and power structures that are woven into the very fabric of how we speak to each other. So I'll leave you with a final thought to carry with you. Take a minute and think about your own world, your own conversations. How does the language you use, the words you pick, the way you say them, how does that shape your own power and your place in the world? It's a big question, and it's definitely worth thinking about.